My feelings, what emotions and thoughts am I experiencing? What am I thinking? How am I feeling? So what am I thinking? Well, you could think from your perspective of, well, I was expecting my spouse to have dinner ready tonight, and they didn't have dinner tonight. So that feeling, that made me really upset. And what worries me is this could continue to happen, right? Um, But whenever you take that to their feelings, like what are they thinking? Well, maybe my spouse was dealing with the kids all day, and maybe my kids were sick, and they're probably feeling overwhelmed and anxious. And what concerns them is now that they have a angry husband who's hungry, who's not concerned about their concerns. Um, so, right, there's always another side to the story, and sometimes we are only able to really see it from our side, but if we can just take some time to really see that other perspective, it's so hard, it's so difficult to see that other perspective because I think it's that ego that wants to get in the way, that wants to say, I'm right. It's my way. Why can't you see it my way? Right? But this empathy map forces us to step outside of ourselves and forces us to step inside that other person's shoes and what they might be going through. What are they suffering? How are they suffering? And by understanding their thoughts, feelings, and what's worrying them, we can get a better grasp and have more empathy towards them. Yes, Trisha, you can get the first week. I actually have that one on YouTube, so I can share that with you. But getting into cultivating non-judgmental awareness, first is understanding non-judgmental awareness. So non-judgmental awareness means observing our experiences with curiosity. So instead of criticism. So like we got to be like scientists here a bit, okay? We got to be a bit of researchers of our own mind. We got to study our mind. So we got to notice the thoughts as they arise without labeling them as good or bad, okay? So as we're having those thoughts, like if we mess something up, if we have a bad conversation with someone, if we have a fight with someone, walking away from that and we still feel those emotions 10 minutes later, 30 minutes later, an hour later, 2 hours later. Some of us are we can let things go easier. Some of us hold on to things for days, right? We just can't let it go. It's just stirring in our mind and we feel it not only in our mind but in our bodies, right? But instead of holding on to that thought or that moment, just allowing it to let go without judging it anymore, just letting it go, seeing it, saying there's a thought and letting it go and being present in the moment right now. Because simply anything but the present moment is a delusion. It's an illusion in our mind. Our brain is creating illusions. So we need to learn to accept reality as it's unfolding, moment by moment, without getting too caught up in these usual patterns of evaluation reactivity. So we can start to notice trends in our own thinking and how we react to how certain people talk to us. I've had it in my own life and certain triggers, the way certain people will talk to me will elicit a response from me. It'll elicit an emotion. So I encourage you to start noticing like those thoughts that come up and how are you judging those thoughts? And this only comes through daily practice, right? We have to learn to observe thoughts, emotions, and sensations as they arise. And the only way we're going to do this is with practice. Again, it's like going to the gym or it's like anything, learning an instrument, learning a new language. If we don't practice recognizing our thoughts and then not judging them or recognizing when we're judging them and then being able to put that in its proper place and then coming back to the present moment. And then what we'll find is over time, as we practice more, our ability to recognize our thoughts and not judge them will become stronger. And through that, we'll have greater awareness, we'll reduce our stress, and we'll have less emotional reactivity. Who feels like they're just reacting in life. It's hard. It's really hard. Okay. Me too. Me too. But the more we practice mindfulness, the more we find, like, if you've ever heard someone say, take that 10-second pause. Well, mindfulness trains that muscle of the 10-second pause. All right, so here's a simple awareness exercise that we're going to do for a whole 6 minutes, and we're going to break it down into 2 minutes each. So how is this going to look? Is we're going to take 2 minutes to just look around, and you're just going to look at things in your room without judging it. Okay, so you're gonna see your lamp, and it's just a lamp. It's not a good lamp. It's not a bad lamp. It's just a lamp. Okay, so then after those 2 minutes, I will have a timer. So you won't know the time, but I will let you know when 2 minutes is up. Once those 2 minutes are up, then I want us to tune into our bodies. So we'll close our eyes at that time. So we obviously need our eyes open to observe the room, but when we come into our bodies, we'll close our eyes and then we'll do a bit of a body scan, tuning into our feet, our legs, our body for 2 minutes. And then we'll get into noticing our thoughts. So for 2 minutes, we'll start to pay attention to our thoughts. So this is just a simple awareness exercise to show you how our thoughts work and how we can focus our attention into the room, into our body, and into our mind. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions before we get started? Okay, this is going to be completely silent. Okay, so bear with me the best you can. So we're going to start with 2 minutes. I got my timer up right now. Okay, and we are going to start the time now. So you're just going to simply observe the room, look around, and notice what is around you. I want you to keep looking around. I want you to notice as you're looking around, are you thinking like, what time is it? Is the time going past? Or there's a lamp, there's a shade, there's a bed curtain, right? There's a bed, whatever. There's a TV, right? You're starting to label things. I want you to just simply observe. Okay, the 2 minutes is up. How was that? 2 minutes. Does anyone care to share real quick before we jump into the next one?
Or I'll share.
Please, yes.
Um, it actually wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. But then I had a thought about that, of course. Like,
That's
oh,
good.
I've been practicing mindfulness and I am seeing the effect of it. But I think about probably halfway through, then I was like, is he going to call time? Is he going to call time yet? Because I was done
Totally
with it.
normal. And it's totally normal. And the goal is to, as we're having those thoughts, is to be able to guide ourselves, is to be able to recognize, oh, I'm having a thought, right? And we can almost laugh at ourselves in that moment and then guide ourselves back to just aimlessly wandering in that moment, right? And what we might have, some of us might have noticed us doing is we start labeling, right? We're like, okay, I'm not supposed to like have thoughts. I'm just supposed to be looking around. All right, I'm not judging things. All right, there's a curtain, right? Maybe you start like labeling things now, right? So like the mind just instantly wants to think, right? And it's like noticing that thinking all the time, thinking, mind working, right? Rather than just being, right? We're always human doing rather than human being. So it's like, let's just drop into the being part of it. Cool. So let's get into the body now. So I'm going to set another 2 minutes. So with this one, I'll give us more of a guided meditation to help. Very, very limited, not too much though. So I want us to just close our eyes now. Take a nice breath in, nice relaxing breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. I'm going to start the 2 minutes now. We'll start down at our left foot. I want you to think about the pressure of your bottom of your left foot against the ground right now. And what does that pressure feel like? Noticing if our thoughts are starting to come in and not judging them. It's not good or bad to have thoughts. We all have them, but just learning to guide ourselves back to the pressure, at the bottom of our foot, and that sensation. And then I want you to focus your attention over to your right foot and the pressure and feeling of it against the ground. Just want you to notice if your thoughts start to creep in. Bring your attention back to your right foot and that pressure. Next, I want you to focus on the pressure of how you're sitting, what it feels like to be sitting against your cushion. That 2 minutes is up now, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes again. All right. So what did you notice about the that meditation focusing on our body versus the looking around the room? Does anyone else care to share?
I'll share.
Please? Yes.
I feel like the body scans are way easier to do than like looking around the room. Because
Mm.
when I look around the room, there's so many things going on. And then my mind wanders so much more because I'll like look at something and be like, okay, there's, like you said, I start labeling. But then I also realize how much dusting I have to do, or like how something's not in the right place. So then I'm like thinking about cleaning and organizing, or like, oh, that, that doesn't go there. I should move that. Whereas if I do body scan, like I have my eyes closed and then it's like easier to just pay attention to the sensations I feel like that I'm physically feeling versus all the things my eyes are taking in.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing. And as we notice these things, it's simply we're noticing. It's not good, it's not bad. We're just noticing how our mind works, right? We're the scientists. We're researching our mind. So what are those thoughts that arise through each of these practices? And then being able to center ourselves back into the anchor, back into the present moment, right? Through whatever practice we're using or anchor. So now we're going to get into recognizing our thoughts. So we're simply going to close our eyes again, and for 2 minutes, we'll focus on our breathing. And as you're breathing, just recognize thoughts coming, and as they come, you might get lost in them for a few seconds, maybe the whole minute. Just gently guide yourself back to your breathing, and as you do, you're here in the present moment. And that is mindfulness. The moment you recognize you're having a thought and you can gently guide yourself back into the present moment without the judgment, that is being mindful. Okay, so let's close our eyes again, and we'll do another 2 minutes. The time is starting now, and just focusing on your breath, breathing in through your nose, letting it out, and just breathing normal. Don't have to take really deep breaths. Just being really gentle with yourself as you notice a thought come up, guiding yourself back to that breath. Focusing on our breathing, recognizing those thoughts as they come up like clouds in the sky passing by. One by one they come and they leave. Focusing on our breath as our anchor. Focusing on our breathing allows us to see the pattern of our thoughts. Do we lean towards the to-do list? We lean towards the emotional argument we had earlier? What are those thoughts that are arising? And then being able to guide ourselves back, no judgment, it's not good or bad, with loving kindness, being back here in this moment. And there's the timer. So with gentle, loving kindness, you can open your eyes when you're ready. Just take everyone to kind of come back. Well, we're going to start moving into fostering self-compassion. So we have to practice mindfulness daily, whether it's for 5 minutes or an hour. But I just really want to encourage you all to continue to practice, even if it's just a minute, even if it's just taking a few steps and feeling grounded, but taking that intention of being mindful each day is really important for fostering self-compassion. And if we don't take that time to foster self-compassion and practice mindfulness on a daily basis, then we could allow those thoughts get the best of us. And remember, we have 6,000 thoughts a day. So without that centering of self-compassion and mindfulness on a daily basis, there's just so much happening in life. Life is chaotic. Relationships are chaotic sometimes. And it can feel so overwhelming. But a lot of it's just created in our mind, right? There's the moment that might hurt, right? The difficult conversation, the argument, right? But through mindfulness, we can center ourselves and find peace again and foster that self-compassion. And then being able to recognize that just the common humanity in all of us, like we're all suffering. We're all suffering in some way. We're all dealing with pain of loss. We all deal with illness, whether it's ourselves or others. We all have things that we're going through, and it's not unique. Sometimes we feel like our suffering is so unique. And again, that's the ego wanting to make it all about us and what we're going through. And not to say what you're going through is not difficult or it's not worthy of acknowledgement or validation, because it is. However, it's not to say that other people aren't dealing with their own suffering. And when we expect others to just acknowledge our suffering before we acknowledge their suffering, we're not recognizing the common humanity that we have in one another. We're just saying it's about me. And maybe we need that sometimes, and that's okay. But we also have to understand who our audience is too, and who are we going to. And I think with awareness and practicing mindfulness and having more self-compassion, we can have more of that empathy and understanding and awareness of the other person and how much awareness and understanding and empathy they might have. And by understanding their level of understanding, awareness, and empathy, we might be able to approach the situation with a different perspective. And then just treating ourselves with kindness. Like sometimes we want other people to give us that kindness that we feel we deserve so much. But I'm here to tell you that we have to learn to be our own best friend. And sometimes we are our own worst enemy. Most times we are our own worst enemy. I find that as human beings, we tend to lean towards the negative. What are those shaming thoughts we're constantly saying to ourselves? And what I've learned to do is turn it upside down. When I have a negative thought about myself, turn it upside down into a positive. So I want you to just take a moment and just reflect on how can you bring more self-compassion into your daily life. Write it down. Take 1 minute. Take 60 seconds. I'm going to put the timer of think about it, write it down, put it in a notes app. How can you bring more self-compassion into your daily life? All right, just a few more seconds here, and we're going to move to the next slide. All right, just wrapping up there. All right, so we're going to do a self-compassion practice right now. And we're going to start by placing our hands on our heart. So if everyone could please place your hands on your heart. And we're going to take 3 deep breaths. Please, if you feel like you're going to pass out, don't take deep breaths to the point of passing out, but just nice 3 deep breaths. I want you to feel that rise and fall of your chest as you breathe. And I want you to just acknowledge any struggles or difficulties you might be facing. And I just want you to treat yourself with that same care you would a dear friend, even if you feel like you don't have any dear friends right now. Like if you're that dear friend, like if you had to imagine a dear friend, maybe it was a grandma or someone in your life had to have been a dear friend to you at one point. Who is that person? And I want you to treat yourself as that person treated you. And I want you to use gentle, soothing phrases like, may I be kind to myself. I want you to say to yourself, I'm doing the best I can. Sometimes we just don't acknowledge ourselves enough, but I want you to allow these words to wash over you. You're doing the best you can. I'm doing the best I can. May I be kind to myself. May I be loved. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. I want you to just rest in this awareness of your own compassion, feeling this support, feeling it comforting you. And just know that this is available to yourself anytime. And it's a practice to love ourselves, but we can learn to love ourselves. It's a skill. It grows stronger and stronger with time. So just remember, you just got to place your hands over your heart. Take nice 3 deep breaths. And just remind yourself, may I be kind to myself, and I'm doing the best I can. Some days are better than others, and that's okay. And that's okay. So now we're going to get into our last practice, which is the RAIN method. And this is a powerful, powerful mindfulness technique that can really help us navigate difficult emotions and experiences. So the RAIN stands for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. So first, we recognize what's happening inside of us. We can recognize our thoughts, we recognize our feelings and the sensations that are present. And then we allow the experience to just be there. So without trying to push it away or trying to fix it, we just allow it to be there. And then we investigate with gentle curiosity. Right? Not judging, just investigating with gentle curiosity, right? Recognizing those thoughts a little bit more deeply of what is surfacing. And then finally, we nurture ourselves with that compassionate care, offering that kindness to whatever is arising. So with the RAIN process, it really helps us to be more present, really allows us to be more accepting. It really allows us to be more self-compassionate, even whenever we're experiencing the most difficult situation. So it's really going to tie everything we learned together tonight in a way that we can remember it very easily. So we're going to practice this. This is our last practice session for the evening. So first we're going to recognize for 1 minute. Recognizing is this anxiety? Is this overwhelm? Right? So I just want you to take 1 minute right now, maybe a situation that happened today. Just take 1 minute right now and just recognize like name that emotion. What is that emotion that you were experiencing? And just know that you don't have to tie yourself to that experience. It's just a thought, right? Sometimes those thoughts can feel very real, okay? And I know they can be very scary, and experiences can feel very, they can do some really damage to our mind. But I just want to encourage you, this is a safe space and it's okay to have those thoughts. Sometimes when we have emotional difficulty and we have those negative thoughts, it's okay. Right? But right now we're just learning to recognize those emotions and those feelings. And then just allow it, right? We're just going to spend 1 minute. We're just going to allow it. Just allow. It's okay. You don't have to change it. Just create space for whatever arises. and just say yes. This too. And just allowing. It's okay to be present with whatever arises with you. All too times we want to fight those feelings. We want to bury them deep. But just allowing it and not judging that experience as good or bad. And then we can investigate it. So we'll spend a little time investigating the experience with gentle. So we want to notice physical sensations. So I notice when I get angry or if I'm getting frustrated, like I start getting a tightness in my chest. So I notice when like I start getting that tightness in my chest, then I'm getting some anger, I'm getting some anxiety, or I'm right. So I can feel those physical sensations changing in my body, and I can investigate that. Like, where in my body, right? So coming to the body scan practice, right? This is why the body scan practice is important, because then we can start to recognize where in our body like when I get angry and I have that feeling, where in my body am I experiencing that emotion the most? And then you might notice like, oh, that's why I have so much tension in that one area of my body, because every time I get so frustrated or angry or anxious, I'm tightening up in that area. So taking that time to investigate, but with gentle curiosity. And then are there any unmet needs that you might have? Like investigating to what unmet needs you might have. Investigating and just listening with kindness. And then coming back to that self-compassion, right? And nurturing yourself. Just say, may I be kind to myself. May I be loved. May I be happy. May I be safe. So we can learn to recognize what we're experiencing. What am I feeling? And then we can just allow it to be. And then just investigate it with that gentle curiosity. And then just nurture it and be self-compassionate to ourselves with loving kindness or metta. So I want you to just like, you can answer these yourselves. We don't have to say them out loud for a minute, but how did applying rain affect your experience? So I don't know if you applied this to a situation you might have had, but just, you could also just apply this, like how could you apply rain to an experience? Do you think any of the steps are going to be challenging, right? Because some of us might be dealing with some serious issues in relationships now. So how could like knowing, right? If we know that we're in a relationship right now, that maybe we're constantly arguing or maybe we're constantly dealing with these things that happen a lot, right? So that next time it comes up, it should be no surprise, right? How can we use the RAIN method to better handle those situations, whether it's a significant other, a boss, a friend, someone we're struggling with in communication? How do you think RAIN is going to benefit this relationship? Give you 30 seconds to think about it. How do you think rain can benefit your relationships? Okay. So we're just getting into our last slide here, and we'll be wrapping up for the evening. So I appreciate all of you all, and working through this with me. But just getting into the key takeaways for tonight. I actually want to hear from you all. Does anyone have a key takeaway that they picked up tonight?
I think what was really, you hear me okay?
I can hear you, yes.
Great. I think what was really cool for me was just a couple of things, but that last thing really resonated within me because sometimes when you get someone says something that you don't like and you almost, well, I do sometimes. You almost immediately jump and you get mad because you don't like what the person's saying or doing, and then you get into a kind of a serious argument, and that happens sometimes with my wife and I, right? And not often, but sometimes. But I'm realizing if you just stop, stop and take a breath and stop and think about the rain method, think about what the other person is feeling instead of yourself. You know how children, it would be really great to be able to teach a child the rain method, right? I mean, because children are the most selfish people on earth. It's all about them. So anyway, that really resonated with me. I will definitely give that a lot of thought.
Thanks for sharing. I appreciate that. Anyone else have a takeaway from tonight?
I agree with Tom. That rain method is a holy grail.
The Holy Grail. Good. Well, I hope that's a practical tool that you all can use to help navigate your future conversations and future relationships, because relationships and communication can be real sticky. The thing about it is we don't control other people. We don't control other people's reactions. We can't control what people say, and we can't control how people will respond. What we can control is using the RAIN method. So hopefully we can practice this, right? We're not perfect. So with gentle compassion, right, as we go into the world, it's okay. It's okay. So next week we have our last session, and we're going to get into mindfulness in everyday life. So mindful eating and mindful walking. Mindful eating is great for really slowing down, and you'll be amazed at what is really happening when we're eating. Because I know myself, I like to eat really fast, and I just gobble the food down. But you're really, slowing down really gives us that time to really enjoy the food and really be present with everything that's happening. And then mindful walking. Maybe you've done some mindful walking already, but it's just a really good time to slow down. And if you are in a mood where you're like, I don't want to sit and meditate, I'm feeling like in that mood where I want to go, mindful walking is a great practice to choose, because you're still moving. You don't have to sit still, but you are focusing your attention in the present moment, right? And it can be a great grounding technique as you're going in between like work and going to home, right? And then being able to do some mindful walking as you're transitioning in the parking lot or whatnot. So however you could apply that to your life, it's a good practice because we're gonna, for most of us, I think that we're gonna be walking. If there's any people who might be in a wheelchair here, there's definitely different ways that we could probably apply that here, but I think most of us are probably able walkers here, so I'm not sure that might apply. But with that said, if you're not in our community, join our community. Would love to have you. We have a WhatsApp group and we have amazing people in there. I think a lot of people are in our group that are here tonight, and some of us are not in that group tonight. But it's a group of like-minded people, and we're all testing the Mindful Buddy app. Mindful Buddy is the app that I'm going to be launching here in January in a Kickstarter campaign. So would love your feedback if you want to give it a try and test it out. If you're not testing it out already, if you are testing it out, whoever's testing it out on this call, I think a lot of you are. I just want to say thank you so much for your feedback. It really means a lot to me, and for being a part of the community, and just being an awesome individual, an amazing human being. So thank you for showing up tonight and investing into yourself. You could be doing a lot of other things with your time than investing and doing mindfulness. You could be watching TV. You could be spending time with family. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for spending your evening with me and investing into yourself, because now we get to go into the chaos of life and apply these tools now. So use the RAIN method, and I hope to see you next week. I'll see a lot of you in the chat. So thank you so much and have a great evening. And that's what we're in. Bye, everybody.
Good night. Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.